Yes, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, which means it is also time for this week's edition of the Weekly Static. This guy right here, Ray Flook, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. This thing you're watching, what we do is we look back at 5 big issues from Bleeding Cool's past week in television coverage, hopefully offer you an interesting take, an interesting perspective on it to get you to think, get you to laugh, maybe even get you a little angry, and let me know what you think in return, because the Weekly Static also is about issues that are affecting you guys. So just to let you know, this is our 25th edition. That means we are a quarter of a century old in terms of episodes. I think that's a false comparison, but we're going to go with it. That means we're kind of like Raw 25, except it's 25 weeks instead of 25 years, which is not even close either. However, this might be one of my more fruitful long-term relationships, so there's a plus there. And also think of it this way. We can now actually go and rent a car without having to pay extra or have somebody co-sign us for us, so that's awesome. So big 25, looking forward to the next 25, and so on and so on. For those of you who have been asking, and I get hit up with this, about the Season 1 aspect, Season 2 is going to start after the 52nd episode. We're going to do this in 52-week increments. I'm looking ahead, kind of liking how it's going, so just to make you aware. So, again, without further ado, we're going to start with our top 5. Number 1, Reboots. Pilot season is crazy, madly in effect, and you're starting to see it not just with the networks, but you're starting to see it with basic cable and so your premium services and your streaming services. One of the biggest trends that we have been seeing, and I guess you could say it's the Fuller houseification or Will and Graceification of television. It's not just looking for new product anymore. We're starting to see, especially the networks, starting to pick up on reboots of other stuff that we've seen before. CBS is looking at Magnum P.I. and Cagney and Lacey. You've got Charmed. You've got Roswell coming down the road. And again, my thing on this is, if you do it right, I don't have issue with it. You know, I think of Will and Grace, and I was watching about last 10 minutes of Will and Grace last night, and I have to tell you, I found myself either smiling or laughing quite a bit. I really felt like the show didn't miss a beat. So if you can go that route, definitely go that route. If you're Charmed, it's not necessarily, you're not starting off on a good note. While Shannon Doherty's giving thumbs up, Holly Marie Combs is basically casting charmed spells and curses against the production. So things to keep in mind. And also, there's enough legit undone properties out there. I mean, Christ, just look at comics. For all this Marvel and DC that everybody talks about, just look at what's going on at a lot of the other publishers and the works that are out there, and a lot of creator-owned works that would love to get a chance at TV. So, again, I don't mind the occasional reboot, but it's starting to get a little crazy. So just, again, broaden your horizons. Networks especially, start looking to see what the streaming services are doing. Number 2, Sean Hannity and disappearing off of Twitter and blah, 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 blah. Ooh, whoa, let me cry a bunch of tears. This is actually going to be about the idea of Fox News. And I know this is not going to be the most comfortable comparison, but to be honest, you don't particularly give a rat's ass. We have a tendency of not learning from history and repeating it kind of with both barrels. If Fox News isn't the pure weird child of Goebbels and the Ministry of Propaganda back during World War II, I don't know what would be. And I know people will hear that and automatically assume, oh, you're calling them Nazis. No, I'm calling them the propaganda machine of just bad shit. And I think you can pretty much see, if you can have any amount of time watching it, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I know the knee-jerk reaction is, but there's MSNBC, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there is, and I don't think MSNBC really hides the fact that where they tend to lean, and that tends to lean towards left. But I'll ask you guys this question. How many Democrats are hosting or featured prominently on Fox News? Because I can tell you that MSNBC, for example, has, I believe it's 4 Republicans who host programs on their network, and also prominently have Republicans on their show as talking heads and the like. So again, it scares me in the sense that we have a network that's out there that is strictly just shilling for one mindset and essentially serving as the propaganda arm of a White House. That smacks against the entire concept of journalism, and the fact that they just will pass off anything and say it's true and don't take any kind of responsibility for the shit they're spewing out there, I think is obscene. It spits in the face of reporters like Barbara Walters, Andrea Mitchell, Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite. It's just disgusting. So the idea of Hannity, cry me a river. You want to talk about free speech? Free speech, we've already described, doesn't apply to everybody. So we put restrictions on when we can say cuss words, because we can't say them until after 8 and stuff like that. So yeah, just it's a little weird. Number 2 gets me angry. Number 3, Grammys. And Rock. For those of you who don't know, Avenged Sevenfold boycotted the Grammys this year because Rock wasn't going to be presented on television. This is very similar to something that happened, I believe it was the MTV Awards with Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars, where he spoke out because I think they received their awards on like the red carpet before the show. And it really was this idea of like Rock not getting any due respect. The problem with Rock not getting any due respect is, isn't that kind of when Rock is supposed to be cool? To me, I'm as somebody who grew up and who the hell am I? But for example, like rap, to me, rap's become too pop culture. It doesn't have its danger that it used to have anymore. I feel like if rock's to survive, rock shouldn't become popular. It's not supposed to be popular. Just like rap isn't supposed to be popular. Both of those musical genres are just variations of each other. They're supposed to be dangerous. They're supposed to be done in shady areas and dark rooms and stuff like that. And they're supposed to fight the establishment, rage against the machine, for lack of a better phrase. So I do understand what Avenged Sevenfold is saying about giving rock its due respect. Let's just not get it back to how it was, where grunge I loved until it became Grunge Incorporated, and that just got really, really, really weird. That was number 3. We're going to go to number 4, and we're going to talk about Cleveland Indians logo, Chief Wahoo. It's weird. I don't know how common sense doesn't just factor into this. There are just things you should change, like Washington Redskins. Like when I hear a bunch of like middle-aged white guys going, "You're taking away my history." It's a effing football team, folks. It's a football. First off, it's football in which you don't use your feet most of the time except you're just standing, which is weird. That'd be like me calling this football because I'm tossing a tennis ball and standing on my feet. So again, your history is football. You're talking about the history of a people who we as a nation don't even like to talk about all the horrible, horrible things that we did to them. So, again, this idea like, oh, you're taking my history, really? Could that be more 10 tons of just white privilege, just both barrels? This shouldn't be an issue. This should be common sense. We're talking about sports teams, folks. We're talking about football teams. We're talking about baseball. We're talking about things that we've let become important that really are just games that get played on playgrounds. So a little common sense. It's not being politically correct. It's not being PC or anything like that to just basically not insult people. Because you know what's funny? Most of the people who look at this and go, I don't know why people would have issue with it. It's no big deal. Suddenly would have a big issue if it was like the raging drunk Irish guys with small penises. It's weird. Nobody likes it when we start playing into the stereotypes about themselves. So I think we need to keep that in mind. It's not being oversensitive. It's just honestly not being narcissistic and actually thinking that other people might have feelings too. I'm not asking a lot. All right. Number 5. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a new cartoon that's coming up on Nickelodeon. I believe it's coming up September or summer, but it's sometime later this year. And personally, I'm a big fan of everything I've seen about it. They're going with a really cool animation style that's just, I don't know. I didn't want something that was going to be very similar to the 80s. And this, I think, just has more of an aesthetic for me visually that's going to attract it to me a lot more than a lot of the other animation I've seen. Now, one of the biggest changes that they're doing in the show is that April O'Neil is now African American, and she's being voiced by actress and singer Kat Graham. And lo and behold, what a shock. There are people out there who just see this as the be-all and end-all of everything. Oh my God, my sacred Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh my God, my sacred April O'Neil. Oh my God, why does she have a bat? Blah, 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 blah. You really have got to have your life so in control that is going to be an issue for you. On top of the fact that, again, it just goes down to just white privilege selfishness. Wow, my April O'Neil can't be white. Well, guess what? Maybe there's a little girl of color out there that wants to see April O'Neil not look white. And especially not look the weird version that was like in the comic book and everything like that, where it felt like they couldn't even decide what they wanted to do with her. Like they just weren't, God forbid, willing to pull the trigger and make her African American then. So I think it looks fantastic. I'm one of those people, it's like the moment you tell me something like that, I'm going to now want to watch it just to give it that much extra support because you're an a-hole. Simple as that. Change is not a bad thing, folks. It really isn't. Get used to it. Things can't and shouldn't be the same way now in 2018 as they were, I don't know, in 1970. That would suck. Because let me tell you, television really, really sucked growing up compared to how it was now. So everybody lighten the hell up. Congratulations on there being African-American April O'Neil. I think the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is going to be very cool, but I'm sure there's a lot of old school fans out there who, for whatever reasons, their heads and their hearts are going to explode. But yeah, boo-hoo. So, there's your top 5, folks. Thank you for joining me this week. My name is Ray Fluck, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Almost forgot what my title was there. Don't hesitate. You can hit me up in the comment section down below. In my tab, there's also an area where you can set up comments and send me your information, and also my social media contacts there too. But thank you guys for joining me. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Don't forget, we have a very cool weekly static extra coming up later on this afternoon too, where we get a fan of iZombie who kind of makes her pitch about how she got into iZombie and what she's expecting out of season 4 that I think might connect with some of you iZombie fans out there, and we'll see if we might step up some of the coverage on that too. So have a great weekend, folks. Ausgezeichnet. Awesome.